Hari Om. Good evening, everybody. So wonderful to be with all of you again. As usual, let us begin our session with prayers. Take this.
समस्त जन कल्याणी निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम् ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहैः Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Guru Namaha. Hari Om to all. Kindle life is a scripture. Scriptural knowledge of our rishis advocate three aspects: Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Shravana being listening to the scriptures in a manner where you not only listen, but you absorb. Manana is once you have absorbed it, you focus on it. You internalize it. In Kindle Life, we are going to do these both. The third aspect, Nididhyasana, meditation, will not be covered. But Shravana and Manana will prepare you for the further height, for the jump that is required. Shall we continue?
Coming along, just a quick revision of what we did in chapter 3. We saw that a successful man never allows his faculty of discrimination and judgment to be disturbed by the rising tides of emotions. And scriptures, like a true compass, always indicate the right direction. In chapter number 4, from the womb to the tomb, man is propelled by two impulses: revulsion to sorrow and a craving for joy. So essentially, we want to be happy, and all our actions are towards achieving happiness. We also saw that happiness is measured by the tranquility of one's mind. Happiness does not depend upon the wealth. Happiness does not depend on status or education. Happiness simply depends upon how quietened and how peaceful or your state of mind is. The religious texts help us to achieve this tranquil state more permanently and to quieten the mind. Let us now begin with the reading of chapter 5. I'm sure you all have your Kindle Lives with you. We had already begun this, but we are going to read it again. The dual path. Material prosperity by itself cannot provide happiness to an individual. If he has not developed an inner, healthy personality with a keen aptitude for living life dynamically and fully. Intelligent self-restraint and discipline, as prescribed in our scriptures, create such an aptitude. Self-control and discipline are detested by the modern man, who considers them as shackles put on his natural freedom, and therefore he repels any idea of spiritual practice. This feeling is naturally aroused in those who are not trained to follow religious injunctions and precepts with an opportunity to intelligently understand and appreciate their efficacy as a practical code of healthy living. I'm going to read this line again. This feeling is naturally aroused in those who are not trained to follow religious injunctions and precepts, with an opportunity to intelligently understand and appreciate their efficacy as a practical code of healthy living. Unintelligent denial of sense enjoyment causes mental suppression, which leads to frustration or cynicism. This is responsible for the general abhorrence for religion. To condemn religious precepts on the above score is like calling a dog mad and killing it. For religion helps man's personality to blossom forth, enjoy a better and more cheerful life. An intelligent and proper understanding of the laws governing man's inner personality inspires higher ideals and gives him a broader vision of life. As man progresses in his inward expansion, the lower tendencies in him automatically drop off. The consequent rejection of lower values following his higher understanding is sublimation, as opposed to suppression, which the scriptures envisage. Notwithstanding one's knowledge of good and bad, the guidance provided by religious doctrines, one seems to constantly gravitate to the lower and vulgar actions of life. It is so amazing that man knowingly chooses a path which is detrimental to his ultimate prosperity. The great rishis investigated into this question and arrived at a clear and precise conclusions. There are two distinct and separate paths in life, namely the path of the pleasant, prayers, and the path of the good, shreyas. Man is confronted with the choice of taking to one of these paths at every single moment of his life. The path of the pleasant, as the name suggests, pleases, fascinates, and entices man to take to it. Whereas the path of the good, which is based on sound religious precepts and injunctions, is resisted by the human mind. The path of pleasant, which caters to man's self-gratification, provides immediate pleasures, but ultimately putrefies into enlarging ripples of disappointment and sorrow. In striking contrast, the path of the good is detested in the beginning, but later on, it leads to greater happiness and sense of fulfillment. Religion can be likened to a kindly policeman directing mankind to the path of the good. But a resolute mind tries to gain immediate flickers of joy by choosing the other. Man is thus denied an opportunity of having a greater and serener happiness which the scriptures provide. All men of determination and discrimination choose the right path and lead the rest of the humanity to a lasting peace and happiness. It's a beautiful short chapter. As usual, we will discuss some of the word meanings and points in this chapter.
Mm-hmm.
There are two words. Efficacy, here it means the ability to produce the desired results. And irresolute, hasty or wavering. I expect you all to read through the chapter, find these words, and see that the meaning is applied correctly. In this particular beautiful chapter, there are two things which are of utmost importance and to keep in mind. are preyas and shreyas, the path of the pleasant and the path of the good. I would like Jagdish to elaborate especially on shreyas and preyas. Please.
Normally, people would understand it as good and bad, right and wrong. For example, if with the previous example, that when one person loves smoking, the other person detests. This is not what Prayas and Shreyas is. Self-gratification, the actions that we take up, the thoughts that we entertain, the things that we do in our life, which is immediately giving us and only ourselves fulfillment, happiness, or it is curbing the pleasure of the want. That is termed as prayas, pleasure. Shreyas, on the other hand, are those things, those actions, those thoughts, which in the past, in the present, and in the future, at all period of times, have only positive and good effects on oneself and everyone else. That is Shreyas. A beautiful 2 words of Bhagavad Gita. It says, Adi mein vish sa khara sudha sa parinam mein. That which may be very difficult to do in the beginning, but whose effects are long lasting and beautiful. That is Shreyas.
So although easy to follow prayers, it is always better to have shreyas.
Always.
Beautiful. Let us continue with our journey and let us see chapter 6 now. Harmony of existence. Life is defined as a series of continuous experiences. An experience, therefore, becomes the unit of life, just as a brick is the unit of a wall. The strength or weakness of a wall depends upon the quality and texture of the bricks used in its construction. Similarly, experiences, being the units of life, will determine the type of life led by an individual. If his experiences are happy, his life is happy. And if they are miserable, he is miserable. The solutions to the problems of life, therefore, lies in streamlining our experiences. The religious masters in this country, after arriving at this conclusion, analyzed thoroughly the structure of an experience and observed that every experience is constituted of 3 essential factors, namely the experience, the object experienced, and the relationship between the object, and the relationship binding the two together called the experience. The field of inquiry of these subjective scientists was confined to the realm of the experiencer, who comes in contact with the multiple objects of the world and gains his experience. Pursuing the analysis further, and after scientific experimentation, they discovered that the experiencer is a composite structure of 4 different personalities, namely the physical, the emotional, the intellectual, and the spiritual. They are so subtle, and at the time of experiencing, they all work together simultaneously and so quickly that the superficial observer fails to recognize their fine distinctions in a single action. When the subject experiencer comes in contact with an object, he does so with four different distinct instruments of experience operating from the four layers of his personality within. Each one of the four entities is differently constituted and has its own values and demands. In every situation created by an object, all the four rise up yearning to experience it. Consider, for example, a sweet offered disrespectfully to an individual. The physical man in him rushes out to eat it, and even his mouth starts watering. Notwithstanding the physical craving for tasting the sweet, the emotional personality in him resists it because of the manner in which it was offered. Again, the intellectual factor in him independently evaluates the situation and decides that being a diabetic patient, sweet is detrimental to his health. Lastly, his spiritual personality forbids him to eat irregularly, but urges him to develop self-control and avoid excessive and unintelligent indulgence in sense enjoyment. The fourfold personality layers are like the antennae of an insect which collect the experience from environmental objects and situations. When these aspects in an individual, each entertaining independent values of life, come in contact with an object or situation, the union may result in satisfaction for one or two of the layers, but produce a sense of dissatisfaction for the other layers. Consequently, a friction is generated in his personality, and such friction, arising from a series of experiences, causes the individual to suffer the stress and strain of life, which is a common malady in the world today. In this scheme of experience and the confusion of personalities within, man's attempt at peace and tranquility, his hope to live in smile and cheers, and his ambition to gain bliss is shattered, and he is driven to a chasm of despair, despondency, and dejection, popularly called samsara. The stalwarts in the religious field discovered the methods by which man can properly integrate the four entities in him into one synthetic whole and thereby enjoy a harmony and rhythm in the varied experiences of life. The religious books thus provide practical suggestions and exercises which, when followed sincerely and faithfully at all the four levels of a personality, create in one the desired integration. The greater the integration in man, the greater is his freedom from thraldom of the challenges in life. The scriptures, no doubt, show us the path to a healthier and more intelligent living. But our determination and concentrated efforts alone can help us to achieve it. Yes, Jagdish?
Harmony in existence. Those who had attended the Knowledge of India series, you may be listening to some similar words. The four personalities. Also, previously we had spoken about the four personalities. Only when these four personalities come together in harmony, that your physical, your mental peace comes together and one becomes peaceful inside. For example, So many people from here on the main road, they go along. The signal is about 100 meters away, and they start honking from 100 meters far. How noisy one must be inside to create so much noise on the outside.
Yes. So the purpose of every human being is to try and integrate his personalities for a harmonious existence. When there is a clash between the emotional and the physical, or the physical and the mental, or then the spiritual, generally the spiritual tends to get neglected, although we have seen earlier that without the spirit, there isn't any existence of a human being. And we tend to ignore that a little more.
Mhm.
So essentially, we should try and integrate all of these four personalities. Let us now see in this chapter, which are some of the words that we should look at. I'm sure all of you know, but just in case, when VIZ or viz comes, it means namely. Despondency in this chapter means the low spirits or a feeling of hopelessness. Thraldom means slavery or bondage. To keep in mind, life is defined as a series of continuous experiences.
Brilliant that is.
I find this utterly beautiful. If anyone was to explain what is life, that life is nothing but a continuous series of experiences.
Think about it.
Exactly. To ponder, we have to ponder upon this particular question. What is described as sansar? I would request all of you to go through this particular chapter once again and really think deeply about life, about the four different personalities of a human being, what the scriptures show us and tell us about integration, and let us take the chapters further.
Oh, nice.
Chapter 7, Personality Rehabilitation. In every experience in life, man contacts the world through the media of four constituent entities in him. They are his body, mind, intellect, and the consciousness, which is the life spark in him. Of these, the mind and intellect equipment is the actual experience that enjoys or suffers the object with which it comes in contact. When this equipment is perfectly tuned up, man experiences a harmony and rhythm in life. But when it lies neglected and fallen into disuse, there arises discord and harshness. The physical body is the grossest aspect of the human personality, which contains the five organs of perception, the five organs of action. The size and shape of the body differ from individual to individual, but the essential material composing it and the functions of the organs are common to all. Again, the subtlest aspect, namely the consciousness, which is the core of man's composite personality, is one and the same in all human beings. The religious thinkers, after having scientifically discovered that these two aspects are common to mankind, proved by logical analysis and deduction that the variable factor in mind is the mind and intellect equipment. The kaleidoscope pattern of experience is therefore attributed to the difference in the texture and quality of the mind and intellect. The mind is the seat of all emotions and feelings, whereas the intellect is the discriminating faculty, the discerning factor, the judging ability, whereby man distinguishes the good from the bad, the right from the wrong, and the real from the unreal. The functions of the mind and intellect are fundamentally divergent and opposed to each other. For example, when a person is overwhelmed with emotions, his faculty of discrimination is lost, and when acute discrimination prevails, there is no room for his sentiments and feelings. I think today we will take a pause at this particular junction. And in chapter number 7, we will see how it takes a continuation from chapter number 6. And from previous chapters, if you all remember, when we had spoken and I had made you underline his equipments over here are now described as the mind and the intellect. So essentially we see that all of the human beings have the senses, all 5 senses, which are similar to all of us, and also the consciousness which is the same in all human beings. What differentiates us from one and the other is essentially the mind and intellect equipment, which is the equipment for actual experience. So let us once again read this chapter at home tomorrow before you join in again for the continuation also, and we will talk a little more about this particular chapter as we go further.
About the chapter number 6.
Yes.
Life is defined as a series of continuous experiences. I would like to just ponder and discuss a little about this. When we think about any happenings in our life, good, bad, indifferent, it is in a form of our experience. Our mind naturally tries to hold on to spark of experiences. For example, you may not remember the entire schooling days, but one of the few days where you had shined brilliantly in the school. On the other hand, one of those worst days when you slipped down the staircase and came falling down and everyone was looking at you and laughing. So these are instances, flashes of memory in the form of experience. As Gurudev has written it so brilliantly, as your experience, so your life. In other words, in simpler words, if we improve our experience in life, our life has improved. It is so simple. So if we try to recollect and remember the best things that happened to you in your life, you will have the memory and experience of the best things, meaning your life is moving into the best direction.
Absolutely.
It is what that is.
So especially the last 2 chapters have been fascinating. Of course, I find all of the Vedantic studies very fascinating. So let's read them at home, ponder over certain points, and then come back tomorrow. And I promise you the further chapters are even more interesting and fun. Just one request I have of all of you. There may be times that I make certain mistakes while speaking. Kindly forgive those mistakes, and I hope you enjoy the knowledge that you are gained. So let us end our session today once again with prayers. All of us, let us join our hands together. Close our eyes. Take a deep breath.
Asato ma satgamaya तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मामृतं गमय ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ओम।